is a three-step process, okay? And the topic is how to sell effectively. You see, here's the problem that I've learned in sales is that most people focus on the sales and not the actual selling. Because some of you that follow me probably heard me say this many times. There's a cause and there's an effect to everything. There's no in the middle. The effect is the sale. That's the destination, right? The cause or the vehicle is the selling of it. It's that simple. I'm not going to make it complicated, right? But how to sell. And here's what I'm going to share about you about how to sell more effectively. Every movie that you watch, the movie industry, Hollywood, they produce movies based on these three steps I'm going to share with you. Now, you probably heard me talk about these steps in my prior videos, but I'm going to dig a little bit deeper into it. Every advertising that you see, whether it's on Super Bowl Sunday or any commercial, is based on these three principles, these three steps. And if you understand these steps, you're going to know how to sell effectively. You're going to be consistent. You're going to increase your value as a salesperson, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, because these principles do not change. The only thing that changes is the people applying these principles. All right, so let's dig into it. How to sell more effectively, okay? Step number one, I call the opening of any phone call, any relationship, any text message, any email, however your initial contact is, this still applies. Okay? Now, I call it the opening of the call because for me, all of my business is done over the phone. Every deal I've ever closed has always been making a call. And that's never going to change for me. Why fix something that's not broken? Does that make sense? So now think about this. The three things that you need to establish on the initial call from the get-go is you got to earn trust right away. People got to trust you the minute you open your mouth, the minute you speak. They have to feel comfortable with what you're saying and how you're saying it. There's no ways around that. For me, doing phone calls or making phone calls, I know that I have 3 seconds or less to make an impression and build trust. And once I build trust, then I can move forward in the phone conversation, right? So once you do the initial and you earn trust, now you got to earn respect from the prospect. They have to respect that what you're saying is viable and that they see an advantage to what you're saying. And then they have to see value. For me, since I'm on the phone, my words have to have meaning. They have to have power. They have to be able to paint the picture, create emotions, hit the greed factor. They have to see that I have something of value, because at the end of the day, we're all looking to buy value, and value is different for everyone. Everything we buy has a form of value that we put on it, right? Does that make sense? So you have to be able to establish those three things right away. And for me, the most powerful thing that the prospect has when I'm cold calling is the ability to hang up the phone. That's their power. But I take that away because I know what I'm doing. Now, once you establish these three things, trust, respect, and value, now you start to build and set the tone for the relationship. Because whether you want to accept this or not, you set the tone for how the prospect is going to go forward with you. You set the tone how the relationship is going to get started. And if they trust you and they see value in you and they respect you, they're going to follow you. That's just the way it is. It's just very simple. The problem is people don't like simplicity. People like chaos. I like chaos because I could take advantage of it for the right reasons, not for the wrong reasons. Does that make sense? So, and also in the opening of the call, this is what I tell my students. I tell my clients this that I'm training. I tell my salespeople and everyone I speak with. You have to sell, offer, and give your value of who you are, what you're all about up front by being authentic, sincere, and genuine. Because if you can do that, people will feel it, people will know, and then you become priceless. Does that make sense? So that's step number one, the opening of the initial contact. All right? Before step number two is probably my favorite. It's called the body of the contact or the storytelling part. And before we dig into it, I'm going to share with you an analogy. Whenever people watch a movie, let's say going to the theater, right? Because you like going to the theater. There's something you saw prior to that got you excited, emotionally engaged, that you wanted to go to the movie theater to watch the movie. You couldn't wait for it to open up. That's called the trailer, right? That's called the hook. That always applies. So the opening of the call is the hook. It's the trailer, right? You got them excited. They trust you. They see value in you. They respect you. They're looking forward to the movie or the body of the call, which I call the storytelling. So it's a transition, right? Now, here's the exciting part. 90%, in my experience, sales are solidified doing the storytelling or they're lost. Now, I know what you're thinking. Nobody likes to hear stories. And I will rebut that with this. If you watch movies and you listen to music or you listen to podcasts, audio podcasts, you're listening to a story. When you meet new people and you're speaking with them and they're speaking with you and they're sharing their experiences with you and you're sharing your experiences with them, you're giving a story and you're listening to a story. That's what selling is. It's storytelling. There's nothing wrong with that. The difference is I understand it and I know how to use it. So the storytelling is supposed to do a few things. Let me put my glasses back on because I got to look at my notes. Okay, so the storytelling is this. In the opening of the call, you have what they call perceived value, right? Because we always have some type of value when we first meet someone or we speak with someone, right? We do. In the storytelling or the body of the contact, or for me, the body of the call is within this call, you should be increasing your value from perceived value to stronger value. Because if you're not increasing your value and you made a first good impression and you don't either maintain that impression or increase that impression, you're going to be losing it, right? So you want to increase your value. There's a lot of elements that go into increasing your value. The second thing is you start to do discovery. And discovery means you start to ask the prospect questions about their business, the problems they have or may not have. What is their strategy? What are they looking to do? What are they doing right now? What is their goal? Right? I go deeper. I ask how much revenue you generate a year. What kind of increase are you looking to grow your revenue or your cash flow? But the discovery is important because it's basically a getting to know them. It's about them. It's about the prospect. Now you got to sell you to them, but you have to make it about them. I like to call it WIIFM. Some of you have heard this. What's in it for me? For me, it's what's in it for them. Right? So you want to do the discovery. The other thing you got to accomplish is you have to tell powerful stories. Because it's like going to a movie. You got the trailer, they got you to the theater, the opening of the movie gets you engaged. 20 minutes later, you're starting to get less engaged in the movie. So you're going downhill, you're not interested in the movie, right? All that emotion going to waste. So the body of the movie, the body of the story, the body of the call, the body of the contact has to keep people engaged. Because the opening is setting the engagement, getting them engaged. The body is keeping them engaged, keeping them excited. And the way you increase your value, how you do the discovery, how you tell a story is very important. Because you have to understand transitions of the phone call. You have to understand adjustments. You have to understand when you have to push the prospect strategically, effectively, right? But you also have to understand how to handle objections with powerful rebuttals. You have to understand if they're giving you a buy signal or buying question. You have to understand, are they really a qualified, excuse me, buyer and prospect? Do you have a real solution? Do you have the right strategy? Are you communicating that strategy? Because I will not get on the phone unless I have two things, maybe three. Number one, I know they have a problem. Number two, I have the solution to the problem. And number three, I can produce results. Excuse me, guys. Does that make sense? So that's the body of the call, the body of the contact, which I like to call the storytelling. Does that make sense? So now for step number 3. Now, before we go into it, I want you to understand, I'm trying to keep it as simple as I can. Because if you understand these principles, you're going to be able to sell more effectively. And these are principles, like I said, advertising companies use. Hollywood uses. Anything that has to do with mass marketing, mass advertising, however the case may be. When you write a book, it's the same thing. These are just principles. It's just different product and services that are going into this strategy. So number 3 is the close of the contact, or the close of the initial contact, the close of the contact, the close, of the email, however you want to look at it. Okay. This is where the climax is fulfilled. The emotion is fulfilled. You feel rewarded for your emotions when you watch this movie. You feel satisfied. You can't wait for the sequel. You can't wait to brag to people about it and refer other people to it. The closing of the call. This is the real value. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is where the relationship starts. This is where there's real skin in the game. The buyer, the prospect, buys into the process. The prospect takes ownership of the product and services that's going to help their business. And then you start to develop, and it's the beginning of a win-win profitable relationship. Because for me, the closing happens in the opening of the call. For me, I'll know within 3 minutes if I have somebody real. If I did my homework and I did my search on this prospect and I understand their situation, I understand the industry, I'm ahead of the game. Does that make sense? And here's the great thing about the closing with the way I do it and my strategy through the straight line method. When I show my value in the beginning and you show your value in the beginning and you give it and you offer it and they see it and they feel it and they could taste it and you earn respect and trust, you become priceless. When it's time to close the deal or convert a lead into a sale or a prospect into a customer, very rarely will you have to negotiate your price. I never, ever have to negotiate my price for my services unless I choose to use it as a strategy in the process. That's it. Because I already know within the body of the call if this prospect is even qualified to afford my price through the discovery process. That's why the opening of the call, you set the tone, right? You transition to the body of the call. You have to maintain that engagement, that excitement, that enthusiasm. You got to balance that with logic. You got to hit greed. There's a lot of things to the storytelling. It's not just telling anything or saying anything. It's not only what you say, it's how you say it. It's a skill. And when you understand your skill and you understand the value of your skill and how valuable your skill is, you are priceless. And then when you transition from the body of the call to the transition of the call, you did the right thing for the prospect. You sold effectively. And here's what I would say to end this. There's only two ways people buy. You, me, and everyone. If you find another way people buy, you let me know. You share that. You either want something or you need something. It's that simple. Most people buy because they want to buy. A high majority of us. When we need to buy something, we resist it. Like pulling teeth. It's just the way it is. It's the way our mind is. The way human nature is. Does that make sense? So you have to understand that. It's a fact. Here's another thing. There's cause and effects. You do the selling, you produce sales. You don't do the selling, you got to hire people to do the selling. Someone's going to do the selling. Why not it be you? So again, how to sell effectively is for anyone that's an entrepreneur or that wants to be an entrepreneur, wants to start a business, a small business owner. If you're struggling growing your business financially, you need to learn how to sell effectively. And there are strategies that I use that I never advertise and I produce sales. There's strategies that I use within these principles to produce one sale a day minimum for my clients because I know how to sell effectively. I understand what selling really is. And I'll leave you with this. Selling is a mindset. Closing is an attitude, right? That's just cause and effects. But cold calling is a very powerful tool. Cold calling is a very powerful tool. Selling, personal engagement is an incredible, phenomenal vehicle. And then with that vehicle, the ultimate, fascinating, exciting destination is the sales. That's what that is. And if you can learn how to sell effectively, watch your sales grow. Watch you increase your monthly cash flow. Watch you produce or multiply your annual revenue. Watch you produce higher profit margins. And watch you get a huge return on your investment capital. Thank you for your time, everyone. I hope this has been helpful. If you like this podcast, you like this video, smash the like button. Share your comments below. And if you want to follow me, just hit the subscription button below. Till we speak again, I say goodbye. This is Paul Cruz with The Paul Cruz Show. Have a fantastic day. Talk to you later.